Good evening, America. Welcome to this very special night of programming. You are going to see something tonight that has never happened on national television. The heroes who protected our border, who laid their lives on the line day and night during the Wild West days of the Biden administration, they tonight are going to be recognized and awarded for their heroic efforts. And for the families who you see behind me, these folks suffered so much in those Biden years, so much as a result of the violence and the chaos and the destruction of an open border. And they are going to learn tonight how their family members will be remembered and memorialized. So, from the Washington home of Just the News and Real America's Voice, we are so delighted that you are here to join us for the very first annual American Border Heroes Award presented by the American Border Project.
Within hours of taking the oath of office, I declared a national emergency on our southern border, and I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country.
The tools that work and they're effective.
And what a job they've done.
President Trump and our entire administration are grateful for the courageous law enforcement officers who are putting their lives on the line every single day to protect their fellow Americans and to keep our country safe.
While you're all sleeping at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, there are men and women out there enforcing the law and making this country safe again.
We will never, ever stop fighting violent crime.
How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked into this nation? How many women aren't being sexually assaulted by the cartels? How many known suspected terrorists aren't making it into this country? How many pounds of fentanyl isn't getting to this country to kill young Americans?
We have 94% decrease in encounters at the border, and in February we had the lowest number of encounters in the history of this country.
We have the most secure border in the history of this nation.
That's just what you can do when you put the brave men and women of law enforcement in one room and get the hell out of their way.
What a job they've all done, everybody, Border Patrol, ICE, the law enforcement in general is incredible. We have to take care of our law enforcement. And our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation, but it turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
The first annual American Border Heroes Awards starts right now.
Good evening, America, and welcome to a very special two-night extravaganza. The American Border Hero Awards are unlike anything you've ever seen on national TV. Tonight and tomorrow night, we begin an annual rite to make sure America never forgets the ultimate sacrifices of Laken Riley, Jocelyn Nungaray, and Rachel Morin, or the courage or conviction of the men and women of the Border Patrol and ICE who worked against impossible odds and obstacles the last 4 years to keep us safe. We're also going to celebrate the extraordinary 3-month dash led by President Donald Trump and border czar Tom Homan to deliver the most secure border in modern American history. In a second, I'd like to introduce you to our partner for this very special event. But before we do that, we think it'd be fitting to begin such an extraordinary evening with a rendition of our national anthem. My amazing co-host Amanda Head has a very special guest to help lead us in that powerful song. Amanda, take it.
Excited to have her here. This is someone who we in our sphere have known about for a very long time, and she's an incredible performer. But as you said, American Border Story does so much important work, and as the name implies, they are telling the stories of people whose stories really have not been told on such a national stage, and I think it's direly important for those stories to be told, and I'm delighted that that's going to happen tonight. And I cannot think of a better way to start tonight than with this perfect rendition of the Star Spangled Banner by country superstar Alexis Wilkins.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. God bless y'all.
Thank you, Alexis. That was awe-inspiring. What a way to start this incredible night tonight. Now, none of this celebration tonight would be possible without the generosity and dedication of our partner tonight, the American Border Story. For the last many years, TABS, as it is known, has told the stories that the legacy media refused to tell and aided the victims and the frontline responders of a border crisis self-made by the Biden administration. We all know that. Allow me to introduce to you a little more about this great organization with this great video. Take a watch.
I think it's no secret that the Biden administration failed us. The lack of border control, the lack of securing our borders, this is a result of that.
Biden didn't care about drugs pouring into our country. Biden didn't care about children being trafficked. He didn't care about anything.
They usually try to doctor it up. They call it undocumented. I just call it illegal. Because bottom line is, if this gentleman wasn't in the country, my kid would be here.
A lot of anger and a lot of things I don't want to say on camera because they weren't good thoughts.
Hopefully he's in prison for a while, and hopefully after that he rots in hell. I have no sympathy for him.
An absolute horror. We need enforcement. We have to overturn the sanctuary city laws. But you know why that's not happening? Because we have a horrible city council who is all progressive and they support this stuff.
And then he strangled her because he didn't want her to be able to live to tell the story.
And she's so much more than that, and that hasn't been portrayed often.
I believe the president's getting rid of some of the trash. People that are troublemakers, felons, murderers, drug dealers.
Human traffickers, gang members, and other criminals from the streets of dangerous cities. But we are getting them out and getting them out fast.
And now I will forever be a grieving mother, and my son will forever be a grieving brother who will no longer get to grow up with his sister.
Illegal immigration is not a victimless crime. And so every sick person we take off the streets, especially child rapists, it makes this country much safer.
This is happening all over our nation, all the time.
When my time comes, I would like somebody to remember my son, to remember him on his birthday, to remember him on his anniversary, on Father's Day, and bring him a little flower on Christmas. That would mean a lot to me, because I don't want my son to have died in vain.
Wow. Very powerful. All right. Joining me now is the founder and leader of the American Border Story, Nicole Kipeloff. Nicole, welcome, and thanks for the opportunity to be a part of this very special night. Tell us how it all started.
Well, John, we started the American Border Story to tell the stories of the victims of illegal immigration and the border crisis. Victims of rape and murder, ranchers living in border communities whose livelihoods have been destroyed. People who have been gravely injured in accidents because of illegal immigrants receiving driver's licenses, hospitality industry workers deeply affected by this crisis, victims of the fentanyl crisis, and many more. We tell the stories of what happened to these victims and how we even got here in the first place, but we also, John, tell the stories of who the victims were and just how much they contributed to the world before they were tragically killed. Every month, we produce creative and documentary-style content to tell these powerful stories. Our phenomenal team at the American Border Story is honored to host our first annual Border Hero Awards to honor the heroes who have helped secure the border, as well as the families of the victims, many of them here tonight and tomorrow night. Thank you for fighting for justice.
Thank you, Nicole. What a noble and fantastic mission. And for all the families sitting out in the audience tonight, thank you for turning grief into greatness, for doing what you did to make this country see there was a better path. You are the true heroes tonight, along with the great men and women we're going to honor tonight. All right, in a second, we're going to kick off our discussion with a panel of law enforcement officials who helped clean up the Biden border mess. But before we do that, let's go back out to Amanda for a quick reaction from one of our guests.
Hey, John. Yes, Chris Burgard here from the audience, documentary filmmaker. Chris, thank you so much for being here. And thank you again, all of you. I don't know if I had a chance to say that.
Thanks for having us. It's like old home week back here. You know, it's so excited what y'all are doing. 2 years ago, Tom Home and I were on the border. In 2 days, we saw more military personnel coming across the border I'd seen in 18 years. We documented how Joe Biden, excuse me, helped start the largest child trafficking organization on the planet. We took that to Congress under Biden. They did nothing. Now, because of Tom Home and the president, things are turning around.
Yeah, I love it. Tell us about your documentary filmmaking.
Oh, man. Back in 2005, I ended up on the border and came back to tell the stories, and Hollywood didn't want to hear that. They kicked me out of Hollywood, so I spent the next 20 years on and off the border with the ranchers and law enforcement down there. I've just been blessed. When we first did border, we played it for Congress, and the Texas Sheriff's Border Coalition came and said, hey, you put on film what we've been trying to tell DC, and they're ignoring us. So that was the beginning of a relationship with them. Stuff like, you know, back when the Mexican military was working security for the cartels and coming across the border in Texas, no one was talking about it. You know, but you've got men here tonight that have been fighting this for years, and I think America is really lucky to meet these people.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to dive into so many of these stories. Obviously, we wish that none of you were here for the reason that you are here, but we are delighted to bring recognition to your family members and to bring remembrance to their stories. You brought up the children who have been lost into the interior of this country. Tell us about how that impacted you.
You know, in the old days, when we were tracking bad guys through the deserts or the pastures of South Texas, usually they were carrying dope, narcotics. Now when you get, I mean, they're still bringing narcotics in, but it's kids. And there was a gut punch 2 years ago down on the river, and run into a load of kids they were bringing over. And the woman that was bringing them over, the coyote had just dropped them off, and she looked at me, and she just started crying because she's holding this little baby, this African baby. It's obviously not hers, because she knows that I know what's going to happen to that kid. And what people have to understand, this is not by accident. Joe Biden, under him, brought in over 500,000 parentless children, 500,000. One of the first things they did when he got in was they stopped doing the biometric DNA testing that President Trump put in. This was by design. These kids are going back into trafficking because of the last administration.
the Biden administration let that contract with that biotesting company expire. And it was barely a blip on the radio with the mainstream media, as was all of the, the hundreds of thousands of children who were lost into the interior of the country. But someone who was the first person to sound that bell up on Capitol Hill, one of a frequent guest on our program and a friend of the program, Wisconsin Congressman Glenn Grothman, is in studio with us tonight, along with a whole host of other experts who are going to be joining John on panels. John, why don't you take it away?
7 minutes. All right, folks, what a great conversation. I feel a little underdressed right now because I don't have a badge or a cowboy hat or a sheriff's hat, I should say, but I am surrounded by 4 heroes of the front lines of the border crisis. We'll be talking about life on the front lines for law enforcement officers, what it was like 4 years ago and what it is like now. I'm joined here on set by Border Patrol, let me get him here, so I have a little bit of the thing. Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Always glad to have you on. From Texas, the Goliad County Sheriff Roy Boyd is here. Good to have you, sir. Great honor to have you here. Retired San Jacinto County Sheriff Greg Capers, you're here. Welcome. Thank you for your great service and work. And down to my left here, Liberty County Constable Captain Brian Nichols. Good to have you here, sir. All right, you guys saw the last 4 years. You knew what it was like. Sheriff, you have been on many times on the show. You gave us those frontline reports in Arizona. How bad was it at the height of the Biden crisis?
Well, look, we were talking about this backstage. I don't think we could even really tell the American people just how bad it was, how violent the cartels, how many women were being trafficked and raped, and how many children were being trafficked into this country, men being extorted, people being left for dead in the deserts. We tried for 4 years to sound the alarm. And thankfully, I think towards the end, the American people somewhat heard that message because we got some reprieve in President Trump and this administration. So I thank you for having me on all those times, because I think that if it wasn't for the men that are up here today and so many other great people, friends like Art Del Cueto from Border Patrol, so many guys that have been saying what needs to be said. And unfortunately, it was probably a lot worse than what we were even be able to really show the American people, because it was so violent and awful.
Your constables, your deputies saw a lot of things that we can't even talk about. Sheriff Boyd, it's a lot different right now. How quickly did it change after January 20th?
It changed drastically. And what we found was that once Trump took office and he assigned Mike Banks to be the chief of Border Patrol, our ability to locate illegal aliens coming across the border dried up extremely fast. The smuggling organizations that we were investigating could no longer put together loads as a result of the great work that the men and women of Border Patrol are doing. And it has been a much welcome relief for us in law enforcement and for the citizens throughout South Texas.
We're so lucky that you guys kept the front lines protected during that whole time. Captain Nichols, I want to turn to you for a second. People say, well, we don't want to ever let this happen again. You are on the front lines. You know what it's like. What are the tools that Congress, Washington need to give local law enforcement to make sure this never happens again?
Empower local law enforcement with immigration enforcement authority.
We need that, right?
Yes, sir.
Many departments are volunteering now and starting to cooperate, but then there are some in those sanctuary states and cities that can't engage even if they want to. So federal legislation would change that, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir.
Very good. That's awesome. Sheriff, you know truth-telling is such an important part of this. There were some in the media, some in politics that didn't want people to see the truth. We got that truth out there because every day men like you stood up and said, it's bad here, we need help. What is the lesson that all of us in America need to learn from when we're deceived about, when we're told the border is secure and we know it's not? How do we overcome that in the future?
You know, I have no clue other than the media needs to quit making up their own stories, their own lines to better themselves and better their further advancement within the organization.
Yeah.
If they would just get back, tell the truth. I've been down to the border several times. Was interviewed by a lady from California, and what I had to tell her did not fit her storyline, what she was sent down there for. So they turned the cameras off and turned around and walked out.
I think you captured something that's very true. We all know it now. There's a defined narrative, and they just try to find facts to fit it. They don't want to tell the truth. Exactly. You all told the truth. The men and women on the front lines, they've had a rough 4 years. I know there's optimism now because the law is coming back and the order's coming back. Resources, Sheriff Lamb, that you think need to be made available to the frontline officers? What do they need?
Well, I think the federal government needs the assistance of local law enforcement. I think that helps with the resources. On local law enforcement, we all could use a few more deputies and a few more officers. That comes through state legislations, making sure that we continue to create a good career and not just a job in law enforcement, making people want to do the job. But we've got to continue to allow our federal partners, first and foremost, to do the job. Take the handcuffs off. That's what President Trump and this administration has done. We're seeing those effects already. And local law enforcement, like you said, in most states where we don't have crazy states and governors and city councils that have made it illegal, we're there standing ready to help out. And this administration, for the first time, is letting sheriffs back at the table, unlike the last administration, where they went 4 years without meeting with a single sheriff, to my knowledge.
That's amazing. It's mind-numbing to even think about. Captain, real quickly, as you look out, there's going to be moments ahead where negotiations with foreign powers will be important. Mexico, Canada, how important is it to make sure our allies are right alongside our law enforcement men in this country?
That's an excellent question. I think at the end of the day, that's really above my pay grade as a local law enforcement officer. But in a nutshell, if we don't have cooperation from the foreign authorities to, for example, take these individuals back into their home countries, then it's going to be difficult to deport the millions of them that are currently in our country.
Oh, no doubt about it. Sheriff Boyd, real quickly, there's still a lot of people bad on the streets. We're trying to get them off. They're getting off quicker. I think 60, 80,000 of them in the last couple of months. What's the most important thing that everyday Americans, if they're living out and they see somebody they think might not belong there, what's the best thing they can do to help you?
They need to report that to law enforcement. But I'm going to tell you right now that securing the border is the easy part of this equation. It is securing the domestic front that is the difficult part. And no offense to anybody, but we are not on track to do that at this point in time. The number of deportations do not match up to the number of people that are in this country. Right. And if we are going to be successful, we must leverage the full spectrum of law enforcement. We must have local, state, federal, and tribal coming together under one mission under this administration. And we need to be working together to successfully secure the interior of the United States of America and deny the cartels the logistical ability to continue to conduct their business in a manner that generates some profit. The cartels are after money. We need to take away their ability to make money in the United States, and they can go conduct their business somewhere else. But we have to get on it. Time is of the essence. We're running short on time. We have not done what needs to be done so far under this Trump administration. We have to step it up. Everybody has to get to work, and it has to be unified. So we must move forward with a different methodology and a different mindset and get it done for the benefit of the American people.
And let the executive branch do the executive branch's job and not let the judges get in the way.
There's some judges in the way right now. I think that'll get settled at some point. Sheriff Capers, real quickly, there has been so much discussion in Washington. We're going to get this done. We're going to get resources to the congressmen and lawmakers watching tonight. What's the message you want them to hear? What do you need from them in Congress next week?
Well, we need more money. We need more personnel. We need resources. When you've got policemen making $20,000 in this department and $150 in this department, it's hard for the little departments to get any of the good qualified personnel. Yeah. So maybe stipends or something that they could pass down to the local agencies.
That sounds like a good idea. Men who know what they're talking about because they've been on the front line. They did without a lot and made it happen. We're so blessed by all of your work, your department's work, the men and women that work under you. We are forever grateful. Thank you for being here today, guys.
And can we just say one more thing to the families, too, that are here tonight? They lost loved ones. We as sheriffs and local law enforcement, we are the ones that pick up the pieces of bad federal policies. And so, and we just thank those families. Our heart goes out for their sacrifice and for what they lost, but we also thank them for being a voice for border security.
We tip our hat to them and you men as well. You've done so much great work for us. Thanks for being with us. Folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we got another great panel for you. And later, we'll be presenting an American Border Hero Awards. First guest you're going to be surprised to see here. We'll have that right after these commercial messages.
Washington, D.C. Welcome back to the first annual American Border Heroes Awards, right here on Real America's Voice.
I'm John Solomon, your host for the evening tonight. It's time now for our second panel discussion. This one focused on shaping future policy for a safer America. And we have some great guests for you from the halls of Congress. Wisconsin Representative Glenn Grothman is here. His work documenting how the Biden administration lost track of not thousands, tens of thousands of unaccompanied minor children that came into this country without their parents was an epic moment of accountability in Washington. Often doesn't happen here. He did it. Also joining us is retired Homeland Security Investigations Supervisory Special Agent Victor Avila. Victor, good to have you here, sir. From the great state of Florida, Richard Mante, who is a special counsel and statewide prosecutor with the Florida Attorney General's office, did some fantastic work with a grand jury. We're going to get to that in a second. Good to have you here today, sir. And finally, rounding out the panel is Art Arthur, the Center for Immigration Studies resident fellow in law and policy. Good to have you here. All right. Congressman, I want to start with you. You've blessed our show many times by coming on it and bringing real accountability, finding things. The Biden administration told us they had this under control. When they let all those accompanied minors in, they lost track of them, didn't they?
Well, absolutely. And this is particularly horrifying for a party, the Democrat Party, that said, oh, we're the party of keeping families together. When these young people came across the border, frequently they had neither parent with them or one parent, rare to have both parents with them. So you're breaking up families. And of course, that's an invitation to wind up having children off on their own, human trafficked, in dangerous working conditions, and the Biden administration didn't care. But I can't emphasize how much it's important that now the Trump administration step in. One more mess that Donald Trump has to clean up after Biden left office.
Yeah, elephant sweeping job is big still. There's still a lot of work. Victor, you were on the front lines for a long time. Right now, there's a lot of progress, but when I talk to men and women in the Border Patrol and ICE, they still need a lot of resources. What's the most important thing Congress can do in the next few months to get those resources flowing quicker?
Ooh, that's let's put the list out. We need funding, we need manpower, we need technology, we need infrastructure, we need an array of things. And one of the sheriffs, what he said is the cooperation with the state and the locals. The 287G program probably right now is the most important, just like what Florida is doing. We need that done in every single state because the locals know what's going on in their communities. We need that joint effort, then you're gonna see the bigger numbers of apprehensions and detections and deportations as well.
Yeah, so important. And boy, that sewing together of local and federal law enforcement, it is a powerful tool when it works, when it's allowed to work, which is an important part. Richard, you did something really fascinating, and that is that you were looking and using a state grand jury to kind of look at the larger system. And there's still components of that system that are operating. There are nonprofits that really are involved in human trafficking. They make this all possible. Tell us what you found and what things still need to be addressed.
Well, the grand jury that did convene down in Florida, their very top line recommendation was convene another one to look into these NGOs. They are making hundreds of millions and into the billions of dollars off of this industry. I mean, it's essentially a funneling of a pass-through for trafficking organizations. Some of them are very well aware of that fact and just don't care, and some are just simply trying to do their jobs. But it doesn't really matter why. If there's mischief in what's going on, it needs to be corrected, and they aren't interested in doing that. So the grand jury thought very long and hard about going after some of these individuals, and said simply ran out of time. They were only convened for an 18-month period. That's the way the law is written. Couldn't go beyond that, and their big request was, hey, Governor, hey, Supreme Court, do us another favor, go after these people.
You created an extraordinary roadmap. It's a big business. I mean, people make careers out of this, sort of getting people into the country and caring for them, right?
The grant funding is astonishing, and it's all, of course, paid for by taxpayer money that's just funneled through the Department of Health and Human Services primarily, and Secretary Kennedy just brought that up, actually, I think yesterday, pointed it out as exactly what's going on. And oh, by the way, the executives and the people running these things, if you pull their Form 990s, it's amazing the salaries they're getting for essentially going ahead and just handing money over to their friends.
It's just insane. All right, a lot of people looking and saying, hey, the courts have, Donald Trump was elected to fix this problem. The courts seem to be tripping him up at every step. Does Congress need to change some laws so that the Supreme Court knows exactly what Congress's intent is?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the big canards, though, John, of the Biden administration was that we need more laws in order to secure the border. And, we heard Exactly. And we heard, Secretary Noem say that apprehensions are down 94%. She actually understated it. It's 95%. And we don't really have good records, but it's probably the lowest number of people who have ever come in American history across that border. So Congress really just needs to tighten the laws, give the courts some direction, take away some of their jurisdiction. I was involved in a court stripping effort, as we called it, back in 2005. But, funding is really the key. The thing that Congress really needs to do now, as Victor had said before, was we need more judges, we need more detention space, we need more agents, we need more agents on the line. Congress can do all that, and the American people support more funding for this. But yeah, when it comes to the courts, it's galling, it's a process. Donald Trump knows it's a process. That's why he started early in his term, so that he can get all the way up to the Supreme Court, get the impediments out of the way, and get the American people safe.
Some of those clashes were intentional, just to get him to the high court.
Absolutely.
Congressman, you've been saying for a long time, we didn't need more laws, we just needed a president who would enforce them. But there are things that Congress is going to do in that big, beautiful bill that President Trump talks about. What do you think is top of line?
Well, there are a lot of things we'll try to get in there. Obviously, he's done the big thing in the first place. When you talk about all the young people coming, you just got to close the border, and that solves the problem. But we do have a lot of young people here who we've lost track of. We have to track down those people. We have to find out where their parents are. And let's not forget, the Democrats supposedly say we're for keeping a family together. We do not want to have a situation in which little Johnny is here with mom, but dad is back in Guatemala. Any more than in this country, if a couple gets divorced, you have two parents far apart. Yeah. So we really have to make sure that if we take a new family here, it's the entire family, and the United States of America is not causing a broken family by who we let in.
So important. Victor, there was a big moment. The president promised it on the campaign trail. He delivered it right away. We have declared that the drug cartels that bring all that poison into this country and poison our children with China's help are now considered terrorist organizations. When you see that, what tools does that open up, and what things might Americans not be ready to see that this president might do to take those cartels out?
Well, that was a great move by President Trump that we've been waiting for a long time. I've been advocating for that designation of these cartels, and I love that list that came out of the 9 cartels that merit them. Tren de Aragua, by the way, is a terrorist organization. Sure, MS-13 is a terrorist organization. But what it does is certain things. The first thing it does is that we get to go after the assets, the money, the properties, everything that these groups are getting illicitly. Second, you're already seeing it, is the DOD resources joining with DHS. You're seeing the active duty military at our border right now. I just came back from El Paso. They're there, they're present. And there's gonna be some other activity with the military. They're moving. Mexico, believe it or not, is cooperating. They might not say it in front of the camera, but behind the cameras, and they're allowing, because they don't wanna see the tariffs, they don't wanna be hurt by other political decisions that Trump will make. But the designation of the cartels is the game changer. Yeah. We now get to take them out and treat them just like ISIS, just like the Taliban. This is how I think the American people need to start thinking of the cartels, because I tell them all the time, it's not just a guy in cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. Yep. This is a person in the United States that looks like you and me. Yep. They're accountants, doctors, and different types of people that they have, because they have an incredible system of, especially of intelligence within the U.S. and 65 countries around the world. Yeah. These are sophisticated corporations, and we must recognize them that way in order to take them down.
They run like multinational corporations. Gentlemen, each of you have played such an important role. Congressman, we can't thank you enough for all the times you came on and educated us over last year, but each of you have made such an extraordinary contribution. What Florida's done, I think the whole country owes Florida and Texas a debt of gratitude for the last 4 years of contribution. But great to have this conversation. We're bumping up on a commercial break. We'll be right back, folks. When we come back, I got a special guest here. Yeah, you know who it is. It's Tom Homan. The Borders Are. We got a special message and a special plaque to deliver right after these messages.
From Washington, D.C., welcome back to the first annual American Border Heroes Awards, right here on Real America's Voice.
Folks, welcome back to our first annual American Border Heroes Award. I'm John Solomon. I'm joined by Nicole Kiprloff, the founder of the American Border Story, which is sponsoring tonight's awards, and it came up with this great idea. When we started talking about this, there was one name that unanimously came up time and time again, no matter who we talked to. I have been able to watch his career as a young reporter growing up, all through in law enforcement, whether he was running ICE or now inside the White House running the entire Trump strategy for cleaning up Biden's border mess. He's our border czar. He's an American hero. He's a good friend, and he gets stuff done. He is our good friend, Tom Homan. Tom, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you didn't know this because we knew if we told you, you wouldn't have come. So that's why we didn't tell you. You are going to be the very first winner of the American Border Hero Award. You deserve it for your vision, your work, your messaging. You educated us all, and you told all the people who were lying, they were lying right to their faces. We're lucky to have you in this country. I know your work is still long, but we want to at least recognize that Nicole has a little plaque to just say thank you for what you've done, sir.
Congratulations.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're something else. You're working 24/7, about 23 of 24 hours. You get a Red Bull probably for an hour's sleep in between. Where are we in the fight?
Well, first of all, I appreciate it's a great honor, but it's really about the men and women wearing the uniform. It's about the men and women in U.S. Border Patrol who stand in that line every night. It's about the men and women of ICE who strap a gun to their hip every day. So I'll take this in recognition of them, but they're the heroes. Like, together with the greatest president of my lifetime, Donald Trump, who let us do what we do. So, look, I'm busy. I mean, since inauguration, I think I've had 3 days off. I was with the president just before I came here. He's not going to give me a day off anytime soon. But we're great. We got the most secure border in the history of the nation today.
Yeah.
And the data proves it. There's no question, right? So I knew when we came back, we knew the secret, right? We had the recipe. We had great success in Trump 45. But we beat the hell out of that. I mean, the numbers right now are, like I say, the best in the history of the nation on the border. Interior enforcement, we're about 3 times the criminal aliens arrested in 3 months that Joe Biden did in a year. So we're kicking a lot of butt there. Yeah. And the children, there's 300,000 missing children. We're working hard at that. Already about 5,000 found.
Really?
Rescued. So, and some of these were with relatives, but some weren't. Some were in forced labor. So that's the 3 legs. When President Trump called me, he says, secure the border, run a deportation operation, and find these kids. So 1's done, pretty much done. 2, we're making good strides. 3 is the most difficult because children are hard to find. I mean, they don't have a footprint. You have a car, I have a car. We all have a digital footprint, whether it's you own a car, you own a home, you have credit cards. We can find us. But children you can't find because they don't have a digital footprint. So you got to count on digital footprint and the sponsors. But the last administration, they didn't vet the sponsors properly. They didn't fingerprint a lot of sponsors. So this is a hard job, the children, but we're not going to rest till every single one of them is found and rescued.
I know those children really mattered to President Trump. He said it to me personally. Have you found many in danger? I mean, some are in dangerous situations when you found them, right?
Yes. Yes, and not only are we committed to finding them, we're committed to helping them, because there's going to be physical abuse, there's going to be mental abuse, so we got to help them, we get them back to their families. But President Trump's committed to this. I mean, the left wants to keep attacking us for what they call Trump's family separation. Well, you know, families were separated because parents were prosecuted. The same thing happened to U.S. citizen families every day, but they won't talk about the 500,000 kids that were smuggled in this country, put in the hands of criminal cartels. I mean, I leave my kid in the car and go get groceries, I'll get arrested. Yeah. But you can put your kid in the hands of criminal cartels to who knows what the hell happened to them during that journey. So we're going to hold people accountable, and we're going to find these kids. President Trump's committed to it. We're going to make sure that happens.
Yeah, I know both of you are. I've seen you work day in and day out. The bigger job is getting 11, 20 million, somewhere between that, out of this country. Everybody knows that's going to take some time. What do you still need? What do you need from Congress? What do you need from the American people?
Money.
You need money.
We need money, right? Congress needs to get off their ass and give us the money we need, right? And I'm not just talking about Democrats either. I mean, President Trump was elected by American people overwhelmingly, and his #1 issue is securing the border and running this deportation operation. We're doing great with the money we have, but we can do a hell of a lot more if we need money to buy beds. We need money for transportation. We need money for more officers. We need money for more contract personnel to come in and do jobs that doesn't require a badge and gun. We got badges and guns doing administrative jobs they shouldn't be doing. We need them on the street. So we need Congress to step up and give us the money we need to get this done. The more money we have, the more successful we're going to be. And look, we got over 700,000 illegal aliens with criminal convictions walking the streets of America. We need money to put more boots on the ground to arrest these people.
Yeah, and 1,200 terrorists, that number came out the other day, 1,200 terrorists that we know are in the ground. Now, God knows how many aren't on the ground. The folks in the local law enforcement who partner with all of your great men and women in ICE and Border Patrol, how important are they to your mission?
Absolutely. The sheriffs, sheriffs are the finest of the finest, man. I got relationships with great sheriffs. Not too many chiefs of police, but the sheriffs are stone cold partners. The state of Florida, look, I give the Governor DeSantis a shout out. I mean, we just did an operation in Florida, got over 1,000 arrests. And he had his 287G people out there. He even had the National Guard 287G people out there. Texas is a great partner. We got a lot of great partners. But the sheriffs, I mean, they're America's sheriffs. And most of them, I would say 90% of them, they're in the fight with us. And I saw a couple outside there that, you know, been in the fight from day one. So we got to count on sheriffs' partnership, and we got to count on the sheriffs helping us with beds, right? A lot of these guys run jails. Their beds are relatively cheap compared to, you know, other beds. The most expensive beds we have is the one we own, right? Federal government doesn't do anything cheap. And I made a commitment to the sheriffs that, you know, it used to be we had a certain, under previous administration, you got a certain level of detention standards that are very expensive. Yeah. You know, we're doing things for illegal aliens we don't do for U.S. citizens. So a lot of sheriffs did not, you know, want to get in a contract with us for beds because they couldn't afford the standards we had. Yeah. So the sheriffs always told me, why would I give these standards to an illegal alien if I don't give those standards to a U.S. citizen? So I made a commitment to the sheriffs, you know, first week of the administration, that we'll do contracts with sheriffs, and their detention standards are good enough for us. If they're good enough for U.S. citizen in that jail, they're good enough for illegal aliens. So that's going to open the door to more beds that we need at a reasonable cost. So, you know, sheriffs are great partners.
They sure are. They've got a great compass setter at the top of this administration and the leader of this. You work tirelessly. I've never seen anyone work harder than you. We couldn't have done this without you. I know a lot of work ahead, but tonight we really honor you for what you do and all the men and women you represent around this country. Thank you.
God bless the men and women of the Border Patrol. God bless the men and women of ICE. I was lucky. I was a Border Patrol agent. I wore that uniform. I was an ICE agent. I know how hard these women and women work, and I tell you, I keep saying this, they're taking a lot of hate right now.
Yeah, they are.
But you know what? While you and I are sleeping tonight at 3 a.m., there's a Border Patrol agent standing on a dirt trail someplace, willing to take it on. Yeah. Sensor goes off. They don't know if it's just an illegal alien looking for a better life. They don't know if it's a heavily armed drug smuggler, but they're going to stand there and take it on. The men and women of ICE are knocking on doors across this country because we can't arrest a public safety threat in the jail because sanctuary cities, now they got to go arrest him on his turf. We have access to who knows what weapons. So, you know, I wish everybody's watching this show tonight, you know, hit your knees tonight and pray for the safety of these men and women in the Border Patrol and ICE because they're American heroes. And they got a tough job, a dangerous job, but we need them.
We sure do, and they are American heroes. You've said it so much. Sir, we know you got to get back to work. We're going to let you go in a second. We have another award to give for local law enforcement. Tell us, Nicole, what we're doing.
So first of all, I just want to say you're doing God's work, Mr. Homan, and I love how you talked about the importance of local law enforcement, such a critical part of securing our border. God bless you, sir. Speaking of local law enforcement, it is my absolute honor to present our next award, our next Border Hero Award, to Kieran Donahue. Kieran Donahue is the 84th president of the National Sheriff's Association. Sheriff Donahue leads an association of over 3,000 sheriffs nationwide in their efforts to secure the border and keep this country safe. Now, accepting this award on behalf of Sheriff Donahue and sheriffs nationwide all over this country doing God's work is Sheriff Mark Lamb, who has years of law enforcement experience serving on the front lines. Local law enforcement, as our border czar just said, is a critical aspect of securing our border. So thank you to Sheriff Donahue and Sheriff Lamb, who is again accepting the award on behalf of Sheriff Donahue for doing God's work and risking your lives every single day to keep Americans safe.
I think Amanda has Sheriff Lamb out there,
Yeah.
right?
Sheriff Lamb, you might not remember this, but in 2017, that was my first trip down to the border, and you gave an absolute masterclass to a group of journalists, some of them not really wanting to hear what you had to say, but everybody was devastated. You have been in this fight for so long. This is a very well-deserved award.
Well, thank you, and I'm honored to be accepting on behalf of Sharon Kieran Donahue, the president of the NSA, and all the sheriffs across this country. But really, the tribute goes, much like what Tom Homan just said, the tribute goes to the men and women who put on the badge every day, that are going out and protecting our streets, that are protecting the families that you see here sitting here tonight. These angel families, people who have lost loved ones, the men and women that put on this badge every day are going out, and that's what drives them. That's the purpose. And we have said in California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, we have said what happens in our backyard will be in your front yard tomorrow. And sheriffs across this country saw that over the last 4 years, and they did a great job. So the men and women deserve this, and I'm honored to accept it on behalf of Sharon Kieran Donahue. I talked to him today. He said thank you. And one last thing, we are citizens of our counties as well. Many of us have experienced the effects personally, not just as citizens, but as sheriffs, whether it's fentanyl in our families, deaths in our families. So we feel for these families, and that's why we do what we do every day. And we're thankful for partnerships with men like Tom Homan, President Trump, and this administration. Thank you for their efforts as well. And God bless them.
And I love what Tom said, the simplicity of they are America's sheriffs. Their reputation precedes them, the men and women of law enforcement who put their lives on the line every single day, the toughest in the world. John, I know you've got another award over there.
Sure do, and he's a familiar face. Without him, the last 4 years would not have been possible. Tonight, he's the winner of the Messenger Award. This award goes out to a man who has continually kept the truth in the public eye in support of border security and for his brothers and sisters on the Border Patrol. He's my good friend. He's the vice president of the National Border Patrol Council, Art Del Cueto. Art, congratulations, man. You are the messenger.
Wow.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you so much. This means a lot, and I'm going to tell you, it means a lot because I've been out there on that line for a long time, through several administrations, making sure that the voice of the agents is heard. I put it all the time on my social media. I always say agents' voices must be heard, but it's the continued dedication of programs and individuals like you that help us get that voice out. I wouldn't get any of this if it wasn't for the boots on the ground and my heroes in green. I grew up on the border. I've been there my whole life. And I remember being a child and watching Border Patrol agents, and they were my heroes. And I'm blessed enough to have worn the uniform and be part of it. So being the messenger, and I got an award from them just recently that said, the voice of the agents, these things meant a lot to me. It's really a big deal. So, and I'm thank you for having me on here, and seeing all the great group of guys that you got together.
When you walked in, people were cheering. They recognized you instantly because you are the truth teller. When the
you.
Biden administration was lying to us, you were telling us the truth.
Absolutely, and I'll continue to do so. At the end of the day, it's about the agents. I'm trying to make sure that they're taken care of. The message isn't over. We got to continue pushing it forward. We got to let people know what's really going on. We got to defend these agents. There's some issues that are going on back and forth right now with some of their retirement. We got to make sure that that's taken care of because they've been on the front line, putting their necks out on the line. We need to make sure they continue to be taken care of moving forward. It was good seeing Tom Homan. And he's got the Secret Service with him. I'm hanging out with Mark Lamb, so I don't need the Secret Service.
You got some pretty good protection with those guys.
If you hang out with Sheriff Lamb, you're good to go. You don't really need Secret Service.
Well, we've been in your good hands for the last 5 years. Art, congratulations. Thank you for your service to your country. You are
Thank you so much. I appreciate this more than you can.
God bless you. All right, Nicole, we've got one more to go. This one's special to me because Tom Homan said it. None of this happens without the men and women on the front line. We want to honor everyone, don't we, tonight in the Border Patrol. Tell us about it.
Absolutely, John. Our final award of the night is a very special award called the Javier Vega Jr. Award. Now, we at the American Border Story decided to name this award in honor of Javier Vega Jr., an agent of the United States Border Patrol who was tragically killed by an illegal immigrant in Texas in 2014. Javier Vega Jr. served this country with courage, honor, and incredible integrity and love. With us tonight, we have Maria Herrera Vega. I've gotten to know her over the past few hours. She's an incredible woman. She's Javier's mother, and she's going to accept this award on behalf of all Border Patrol agents and their families nationwide. Maria, please consider this a very small token of our gratitude to your family and your son for everything that he did to protect the people of this country, making the ultimate sacrifice. We carry his story in our hearts, and we never forget the sacrifice that your son made. Maria is now standing by with Amanda out in the audience.
Maria, I know a lot of people here know your son's story, but I think one of the most important aspects of tonight is telling the stories. Tell us about Javier.
Okay, so he was a very amazing young man. We did our best trying to raise him correctly, teaching him right from wrong. And from a very young age, he expressed a love for law enforcement, the military, which some of you know that as soon as he graduated from high school, he went into the Marine Corps. He did his 4-year term, got out, was going to school full-time and working full-time as well. He loved what he did. And it's kind of hard for my family and I to see what's going on because I can't just get it through my head. How can anyone defend illegal aliens? What about the American people? Why aren't we a priority? And as long as I'm alive, I'm going to be a voice for my son and for all the angel families who lost a child.
You know, your son was courageous, but you are too. Speaking out, talking about his story, never letting that go. He may not be a priority to past administrations, but he's a priority to this administration, and he's a priority here tonight and to all of us here. So thank you for your son's service.
Thank you to the American Border Story. And on behalf of my family, my husband who's here in the audience, thank you very much for this award.
John and Nicole, back to you.
Maria, thank you for the dignity, the grace, the courage your family showed. I grew up in a family of cops, and I know how hard it is to lose one of the brethren. Your family showed how resilient all the Border Patrol families are. Thank you for being with us tonight. It's such a great honor. All right, folks, we just got a few minutes left. We have a great conversation tomorrow, but there's a special message we want to bring in from one of my close friends. He's the FBI director, but long before he became the FBI director, he was on the front lines, comforting families, prosecuting crimes, making sure their stories of victims were never lost. He's my good friend Kash Patel, and he has a few words to say. He sent them right in just a little bit ago.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kash Patel, and I'm honored to be the 9th director of the FBI. I wish I could be there with you in person today, but I wanted to make sure and send a video message to thank you for everything you are doing to fight for a safer future for America. When we talk about angel families, we're often remembering the young victims of senseless tragedies at the hands of illegal immigrants, and we should. And at the same time, you all are angels too, because you are out there on the front lines, standing up for what's right every day and fighting to defend the families of others. No one should ever have to go through what you have to. And thanks to the policies of this administration, our Department of Justice, and law enforcement across this great land, we are working each and every day to make sure what happened to you never happens again in this country. I'm proud to say that since I was sworn in as the FBI director, our FBI has undertaken historic efforts to step in the arena of immigration enforcement and join with our interagency partners to get violent criminals off American streets. And just 2 months in, we've already seen some monumental success. Since President Trump's inauguration, the FBI has conducted over 6,000 joint operation arrests and arrested well over 500 violent gang members from neighborhoods across this country. We're seizing deadly drugs and taking them off the streets, including a recent operation in Florida where we seized nearly 50,000 pounds of illicit narcotics worth over $500 million. Operations like this one will break the cartels and make America safer. All of this starts with each of you and the brave work you are doing to stand up for what's right in this country. I'll leave you with this. Under the leadership of this administration, your FBI will never stop fighting for you. We will work each and every day to make sure your work and the lives of your loved ones are not in vain. Thank you for what you do, and God bless you.
You're a federal prosecutor, chief counsel of the House Intelligence Committee. You've been protecting us. All right, Nicole, this has been an extraordinary night. We got another night tomorrow. Today was about honoring the men and women on the front lines. Tomorrow, we honor the families who's turned grievances and pain and suffering into extraordinary opportunity for this country. Tell us what we can expect tomorrow.
You know, John, first I just want to say the reason why these incredible people are the most deserving to receive these awards is because they're not looking for awards. They're not looking for the spotlight. They're not looking for attention. They're just doing what's right. They're looking for justice, and the families are looking to tell their stories in the midst of this incredible gut-wrenching turmoil because they want to ensure that this never happens again. And we're going to hear exactly how these families tomorrow, we'll hear from all of them. We have 21 family members here, angel families who have lost loved ones, and we're going to hear how they have turned their grief, the most difficult, darkest moments in their lives, into purpose and fighting for this country. I can't think of anything more honorable than that.
I agree with you. I've been surrounded all day by heroes, and I've just been numb the entire day. It's such a remarkable thing. We got another day tomorrow. Folks, be sure to tune in. There are some important names you all remember. Tomorrow, we're going to make sure America never forgets their names. With the great generosity and hard work of Nicole and her team, we are going to create scholarships in honor of some pretty extraordinary Americans. You know them. We're going to say their names often. We will not forget them. We will honor them, and we're going to have your opportunity to sit and get to meet their family members, their loved ones, hear their stories, what they still need to get through the crisis that has been upon them. For tonight, I want to thank everyone watching in the audience. There is an extraordinary role that all of you play too. On Election Day, you helped close the border too, and for that we're grateful. On behalf of Real America's Voice, on behalf of Tabs, who made this night so powerful tonight, the American Border Story, and Just the News, thank you for watching. Be